Anthony and Lily. Hi, Anna Mac. So nice to see you. Maya, stop climbing mountains. No, don't stop. Keep climbing mountains. It looked really cool. I'm stalking. Aaron, so good to see you. Hi. And Ruslan, you made it back to Pittsburgh? New York is less now because you're not here. Hi, Sue, Susan, or S. Yeah. Nice to see you. And hello to all you folk in studio. It's really nice to see some familiar faces and some new faces. I'll give you a quick intro in a second. I'm so hungry. No. We were just talking about food. Yeah. Oh, it's good to be back. It's really good to be back. Thank you, John Chris. Everyone wave to the people online. They're saying hi over there. Yeah, there they are. I'm over here too. Here we go. Yeah. Uniting the world. How is temperature inside? Can we get up, medium, or is it too cold? I'm a little warm, so I want. Are you getting all the cold? Or are you getting just the cold? Okay. Rosie, how are you? Can I get a wave? You're good? Excellent. Good. Lily, hi. Nice to see everyone. Good. So welcome everyone. If you haven't been here, if you're a new face at 3 Joules, this is 3 Joules. It's a place, but it's a little bit more than a place. And my name is Hector Marcel. I get the incredible fortune to oversee this place. I'm the president of the board. It's just a name for herding cats. 3 Joules is a non-profit. We've been around 25 years. I bumped into it by mistake some 25 years ago. I was going to get drunk at a friend's housewarming party and I walked into the wrong party. There was a bunch of monks and nuns and I'm like, this is weird. I didn't know it was dress up, but it wasn't. I went to the wrong place and it was the right place. And then something happened that night. I had dreamt about this weird place I went to, and the next day I walked in and they taught me my first meditation class, which is extremely challenging, and it kept me going back. And 25 years later, I get the great fortune to be back. So this is 3 Joules. It's a non-profit, Buddhist philosophy. We have really amazing detailed classes from the Asian Classics Institute, which has condensed the Tibetan Buddhist educational curriculum of 20 years, like whatever the Dalai Lama would learn over 25 years. These books on logic and reasoning, why meditate, what is karma, causation, the creation of planets, like all the Eastern philosophical viewpoints. It takes 25 years to memorize, debate, and learn. And then all the Buddhist practices come out of those. We're fortunate at 3 Joules to have a condensed version of all that work. First time ever in the world that it was translated into English, into a 18-course curriculum. And that was translated here at 3 Joules and 20-something years ago. And a great fortune to have studied that and get to teach that. And that happens here at 3 Joules every Thursday. We're going through one of those courses at the moment. It's a course from a book called the Bodhisattva Charyavatars. Master Shantideva around 700 AD, all about what are the key practices that can turn your life to compassion, to wisdom, to enlightenment itself. And there's definitions and explanations of practices, and they're at this chapter on this big word in Buddhism called emptiness. And it's the most exquisite thing, and it's really nerdy, but it's also really applicable. So if you want the real deep, in-depth thing, come to Thursday nights at 3 Joules. Being a non-profit, it's free or by donation. On Tuesday nights, it's a new thing that I get to do. I've only been doing it for a couple of months. Is I get to not be scholastic, which I'm really bad at anyway, and just tell you what it's like to put on the skin of Tibetan Buddhist thought and live a normal life in the real world. Yeah. So part of Buddhist thought is there is this understanding of reality which apparently Buddha had under a tree meditating, right? And from his discourses came all these writings and all these sutras and all these practices that have evolved into very complex but incredible systems in Buddhist thought. And then how do you internalize that? How does a human being internalize that? And there's a couple of methods, right? Get away from the things, the triggers that make you an angry, annoyed, distressed, pained human being. Like, go in isolation and process all these things in a meditation cave with all the other monks and nuns quietly. Don't talk to anyone, don't get pissed off with anything, everything's okay. One method, yeah, good method, because it helps you get some distance from the triggers of things that have come your way from human living. And then the other method is dive straight in, go into the shittiest job you can possibly get, work with the shittiest boss you could ever do, go and choose something that will annoy the F out of you and see what your mind does there. Right? And I wouldn't recommend that one until you've got some thing to practice, some insight that should come from either the study or the cave or the monastic, yeah? So retreat, isolation, learn stuff. You need that to strengthen the mind that is going to engage with what you will eventually, inevitably have to engage, which is reality, yeah? And so today, does that sound fair to those Buddhist students that have been around? They're like, yeah, sounds like. Good. Tonight I want to talk about, a couple of things. Tonight I want to apologize for cancelling last week's class last minute. I had never been so instantly sick in my entire life, ever, and I'm old, okay? And I'm not that old, just 50 something. For the older folks, apologies. Stop looking at me that way, Chris. So I had a case of what the doctors think is vertigo. And who's had vertigo before here? Not many, okay. It's not the movie, it's not the Hitchcock movie, yeah. It would have been nice if it was. I woke up and I just felt dizzy. Actually, I went to bed dizzy. And then I woke up the next day and I was more than dizzy. The room was spinning and I'm trying to get to the toilet and then I'm turning left all the way along and bumping into things. I'm like, that's weird. So I triangulate and keep going. And then you'd have to stop halfway down the stairs. And I'm like, this is weird. I was telling Varun, where are you? Yeah, but there, how interesting that once you develop a meditation mind, you get this sort of muscle in the observer part of your mind that watches everything, right? It sets off the alarm when you're not meditating, when you're supposed to be meditating on this, and then you're thinking on breakfast. The observer's like, hello, you're supposed to be on this thing, forget breakfast. And so you get that very well developed, the attentiveness when you're not on, your mind is not what it's supposed to be on. So that thing's developed. And then when it's got interesting things to look at, like, oh, look, Hector's sick. Let's have a look what's happening here. The sensation is arising and he's falling to the left. So that was extremely active. And then I've never been seasick or anything like that. But the vertigo it felt like a poltergeist had grabbed my body and shoved it into the sink and just made me vomit, like just constantly because of the spinning, not because I ate anything, like I had nothing in my stomach. And that happened 1 hour, and then it happened an hour later, and then half an hour later, and then I was just on the bucket, like me in a bucket, and this observer going, I felt like an astronaut with a separation helmet, just looking through the glass at the inside of Hector's mind. You know, and it was pretty interesting. I mean, besides it being horrible and terrible and out of control and moments of thought popping out going, this happened to your mum when she was very sick. This is what happens to everybody who's very, very ill. This must happen to people end of life just before, you know. And we had just finished teaching at a meditation teacher training, death and dying, like the day before or something. So my mind was going and observing and finding beauty in the most disgusting thing. It's like, look at this, that experience is arising. And yes, you're going to have to deal with it, drink water or relax or close the eyes or do all the things you need to do in the real world. But then this other world that I've been blessed to practice for 25 years just turned on like a stream, the observer, with a bunch of insight and wisdom and compassion. I didn't go, oh, me, I have to go to hospital, poor me, instantly. And I'm not bragging, I just want to share that once you habituate your mind to something, it can't stop. Like whenever things happen, that mind engages with whatever happens. And so there was a beauty in the disgustingness of the moment. I'm not saying go get sick so you can observe what your mind is doing. I'm not saying that. I'm saying there was a part of me that was glad I'd had all the years of the practices that come out of this system that can turn something that is apparently negative into the bare minimum, a lesson, a little bit more, some compassion for others that might have to go through this without that viewpoint, some love, and even more stuff, right? Like, interesting that these would come up now, you know, and it was a kind of uncontrived detachment to the sensations and a beautiful ripening of the compassionate mind for any other person that would ever have to go through this. So I apologize that I missed it, but it was a really good ride. And then I went to the doctor, said, like, we don't know. And then someone else said, maybe it's this, they don't know. They just gave me drugs in the real world and they seem to work. So now I'm good. If you see me spinning, no, don't touch me. So that's what happened last week, and I'm sorry, it was like the same day I cancelled, and I feel bad. I'd never done that at 3 Joules. In the years that I've been here, I've never cancelled the same day. So Tuesday night, it's me just rambling about what it takes to get this philosophy, these practices, these texts, all the teachings of the Buddha, and applying it to our everyday. And I keep saying the real world because at the moment, 3 Joules is running a 200-hour meditation teacher training with some 50-something beautiful minds. And I get to have discussions with them on Tuesdays before class. So I have half-hour sessions with any of the students. And I had a bunch today. And that theme of the real world kept coming up. They're like, okay, we're hooked. We love Buddhism. Buddhist thought is good. All the theories are amazing. I want to meditate. I want compassion. I understand something about this emptiness thing. I understand something about karma, how my mind is projecting a reality onto something you can't find. Yeah, the illusion. But how do I apply it to the real world? Was the theme of the questions today. And I remember having that idea that's separate to these concepts that we're trying to internalize and learn through Buddhist practice. There is a real world. Like, I want you to think about what that implies, right? I'm meditating so I can go out into the real world, right? It implies you don't think that meditation or the stuff you're doing whilst you're seated in meditation and the work you're doing with your mind has any real consequence in the real world. And so I want to talk a little bit about that, if that's okay with you, because the questions were real. They were real for people. This is a problem in my life. How do I apply it to the problem? I get compassion, yeah, I get meditation, yeah, but how do I apply it to this problem? And sorry, I keep looking at you every time I say problem. Yeah, I'll look away. Sorry, to this problem. And I think if you get that right, if you understand what your mind is doing in that trick, you might be able to turn on these practices for you. And you'll get to see the power that they have for you. So I've got to say a couple of things to make sure we're all on even keel. We're on the same thing. There is this key that unlocks every single Buddhist concept I have ever studied. This key that if you understand it, you will know why the hell you meditate, why the hell you're compassionate, why the hell you should put more stuff in your head, why the hell you should retreat, why the hell you should engage, why, there's this key understanding that if you get it, all of the Buddhist teachings turn on, and not just the Buddhist teachings, but your mind turns on to understand how to engage with reality, the real world. Yeah? And I need to talk about that concept first, and if you've heard it before and you're not having a perfect life, then you haven't heard it before. Kidding, just teasing, that's not true. If you heard it before, I invite you just to see if you have any misunderstanding to this concept, because I still do, and I'm at it 25 years. It goes against our instincts, this understanding. It turns upside down what we thought was the right way up. And the concepts are two words, karma and emptiness. And karma isn't bad luck, good luck. Yeah, it's not that. Karma is not this one thing separate to what's happening to you right now. Karma, defined in the Abhidharma Kosha 350 AD, is the movement of the mind and what follows. The movement of the mind and what follows. So I want you to think about what's my mind, right? And my mind is my non-physical thing. It's not my brain. My mind is consciousness. It's every feeling you've got, every millisecond of experience that you're having. The mind is that raw awareness and all the functions that awareness connects to. The mind is everything you're perceiving. Thought, memory, hope, like all that stuff. Yeah? And so in Buddhist thought, this mind and body are sort of looked at differently. So we're talking about the movement of my mind and what follows. So give you an example of the real world, right? And if you've seen my TEDx talk, you'll know about this, which is you meet an angry boss. My TED talk's called How to Get Rid of the Angry Boss. You meet you meet somebody that pisses you off, that makes you upset, that does or says something, and you're just like, that's not good. Why did you do that to me? Yeah. So you meet something, the mind has an experience, and what follows is, sorry, I just got to get away. You're just a terrible person. Sorry. I'm making you the angry boss. You're welcome. Good. And when you slow it down, right, which Buddhists love to do, let's investigate the occurrence that occurred right here, right? So there's some stimuli and there's a response. And the mind had a moment, and then something followed. Either another thought, or some words came out of my mouth, or a pencil sharpener, or whatever, like an action followed. Movement of the mind and what follows. That's karma. But it's just one simplistic way of explaining that that you can't separate your awareness from the frames of experiences going on in your consciousness. That is you, right? So that's important. So there's an angry boss. Sorry, what's your name? Skylar? Yeah. Okay, Skylar's such a pain in the ass. He's so annoying. Makes me angry, right? So everything Skylar says is just terrible, right? Sorry. Trying to prove a point. And that is really the real world. That's the real world. I felt hurt. You shouldn't have said that to me. It's not good. Yeah? I'm wounded. Why did you reprimand me in front of everyone else? Now I'm embarrassed. Yeah? So there's that moment. And karma means the movement of the mind, right? Which is a lot of things in Skylar doing something. Did everyone understand karma so far? Good. And what follows? Now, emptiness is like the other side of that coin. The Buddha described that reality. He explains it in the Heart Sutra. He goes, Arya Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, doing deep prajna paramitas, perceive the senseless emptiness of all five aggregates. Form is no other than emptiness. Emptiness no other than form. Form is precisely emptiness. Emptiness precisely form. Whatever is form, that is emptiness. Whatever emptiness, that is form. Sensation, perception, formations, and consciousness are also like this. So he's saying everything is empty. Everything is emptiness. But he just pissed me off. How can he piss me off and be empty? So we've got to understand what empty means. And remember, this is the key to unlocking everything, turning everything on fire in these practices, for them to actually function for you, and not for it just to be another bullshit collection of things I do that I put up on Instagram. If transformation's to happen, we got to go find out where and why it works and how. And once you get it, then your practice begins. Otherwise, you're just monkey see, monkey do. So karma is this movement of my mind and what follows. Emptiness means the fact that what I think happened can't be happening the way I thought it did. It did happen. It can't be happening the way I thought it did. Tyler can't be the source of my anger. Tyler, I called you Tyler. It's Skylar. Yeah. Either can Skylar. Yeah. And that is contradictory to our reality. Of course you piss me off, and you shouldn't have done that. I'm angry now. And when you slow that down, which Buddhists like to do, to analyze, where is this anger that arose in me, this embarrassment? What happened, Hector? Well, he yelled at me. Skylar yelled at me in front of my colleagues. Okay, that's the event. That's what happened. Does that always necessarily cause anger? Because let's go find the anger. You want the anger out? Let's go find it. Skylar yelled at me. Okay, let's go find it. Does Skylar making loud sounds, which include the word Hector, always necessarily create anger? And what's your thoughts on that? Anyone? No. Just that. Yeah, we know it's no, but then that's conflicting, right? It's like, no, not always, but he still pissed me off, right? So our normal thinking has trouble with that analysis. A different way to analyze it, like a more Western psychological way, would be, okay, you heard Skylar make loud sounds with the word Hector in it. How did that make you feel? Angry. Okay. Why are you angry? Skylar yelled. That's the event. Loud noise, anger. Let's change a little. Could there have been anything else coming out of loud noises that wasn't anger? Or why did you get angry? Oh, because I'm embarrassed now. Okay, embarrassed. When is someone embarrassed? Oh, when someone doesn't feel too good about themselves. Or people shame you, or whatever the story in your movement of your mind is connecting to yelling. Is yelling the cause of anger? And you could say, nominally, for my reality, my little r reality, yeah. But did it come from Skylar? Skylar. And you can't find it if you go looking over there. Slow it right down. Find, Hector, you are so stupid. Right? Sounds came out of Skylar's moving circle. Hector, you are so stupid. And then you hear this and heat arises, and then like, F you. Can you find the particle that created my anger from that? No. And I'll give you a stupid example, but it's to get the meaning. What's your name? Philip, who's my colleague, he wants my job, right? Sorry, no, I'm good too. He's very happy. Skylar yelled at me. He's like, finally, someone saw through stupid Hector. Maybe I'll get the job. Finally, they see my talent. The boss really sees how dumb Hector is. So same sounds, Philip's very happy. Anger, happy. Same sounds, same office, same location, same time. Yeah? Two realities, one sound. Hector, you stupid. Emptiness means Skylar is empty, or yelling is empty, of causing this reaction. This reaction can't come from that thing. That thing, is empty when you go looking for this result. And it's empty when you go looking for Philip's result. It can't have come from, Philip's reality couldn't have come from him yelling either. You get it, right? Then you add the rest of the office, and everyone's having their own interactions like, God, I don't like you because you're yelling, but I also like that you're yelling at Hector, and can people stop yelling? And there's 1,000 realities labeled to the screaming in the office. Do we get the scenario so far? Yeah? Buddhists are really good at going, that's not enough, let's go investigate further. Right? Because you want to be so certain that if you get it, it should liberate you from the anger. It should liberate you from the attachment that you're going to get a job. You're probably not, because I'm not leaving. Yeah. It should liberate you from the hunger and the thirst and the attachment. Any negativity should fade away if you understand what causes negativity and you stop creating the causes. So then comes the hard part in Buddhist thought. This is again the key concept that I want to talk about before talking about reality. If it didn't come from your words, my anger, where did it come from? If he's empty of causing this reality, or that reality, or that reality, if that can't be found radiating out of that body and mouth, where did my reality actually come from? It must have, right? It must have come from somewhere in me.
You have it inside already.
Yeah, I already have it inside, but it's so convenient to blame him for it because I don't like this thing. It must have. And then we have a problem. Buddhists say every negative experience you ever had is your problem. Oh my God, that's going to be triggering. Let's have that debate. But if you really want to be free from it, it's worth the debate. It's worth going looking. So the reality, it appears that it's in somewhere here, located somewhere in my experience of of those sounds. Were there sounds? Yes. Was there a boss? Is there an office? Yeah. So Buddhists are not saying nothing exists, okay? Just to warn you. But it can't be found there. Why? Because he laughed. Everyone good, right? So then if it's in me, it's a problem. I don't want that. How did I make that happen? That's dumb. And the first thing you have to do with that problem is, do I choose my reality in the moment? And most sort of modern pseudo wake-upism is like, oh, just be kind, just enjoy the boss yelling at you, right? Can I choose in the moment not to be angry? In the moment that I'm angry, can I choose not to be angry? Of course not. Thank you. Yeah, you can't. So it's forced, it's a reality forced on you by you, according to this analysis so far. That's a problem.
It's your problem.
Yeah, correct. It's my problem. Yeah, 100%, but we can't see it. It's so much easier to say, if you hadn't yelled at me, I would be content. But today, you pissed me off. Now, that is the way it appeared to be. He said words, I got upset. It happened so quick, my mind did something, you're to blame for my feelings. I can put it aside now because I've got somewhere to point the feelings at. Put it aside. I'm good. I just avoid the boss from now on, right? And the appearance of that as having come from his words or yelling or the situation is what Buddhists call illusion. The illusion that the world is coming at you and forcing itself onto you to force your experiences. And that's the illusion, the dream, the misunderstanding that Buddhas, Bud to awake, Buddha, the one who woke, Buddhas wake up to. We wake up to, we Buddha, we have a moment of awakening to the possibility, shit, it's not the angry boss. Why? Because when the decibels come out, Philip's laughing. Hector's upset. Philip's got something awesome going on in his mind, projected onto the decibels, rather than the decibels forcing a reality onto Philip. Hector's got something shitty going on, projected onto the decibels, rather than the decibels forcing an experience onto Hector's mind. Karma, movement of the mind. Because there's no nature in the thing, it is available to be everything dependent on the perceiver. Yeah? Does that make sense to everyone? If you understand that concept, which I invite you to keep trying to break, try and find a thing that your mind isn't projecting a reality on it. Find me one thing that every single sentient sees exactly the same way, experiences precisely the same way. And that thing is what Buddhists call the gaccha, the impossible thing, the thing that has some self-existence, radiating a substantialness onto all of us, that we all must see President Trump as the savior. We must all see it if he's the savior. Everyone went real quiet in the room. Help me. No. Weirdness. Or whoever, find the pill that works 100% of the time. Find me the headache pill that works every single time. The active ingredient in the medicine that always resolves the problem. And you see the struggle we have about that. So Buddhists would say, the illusion that you think you're living in that real world you keep asking about, is the mistake. You ain't taking the realizations from your meditation cushion, from your study on philosophy and what's happening. You aren't going to go take it to that boss and force the boss to behave differently. You're mistaken at the way that you're thinking about the boss. Gandhi said it in a sentence. You be the change you want to see in your world. Like he said it in a sentence. Buddhists have 108 groups of scripture, right, which analyze what does it mean be, to be? What does it mean change? Did everything change? Like Buddhists are forever debating the debatable thing. What's the? Is there one or are there many, things to change that you, one, must see in the world? See, do they mean experience or visually see? And you'll have like text after text debating it. But it's really nerdy and cool because you got so much support and scaffolding when you do sit in front of an angry boss that your mind is so distracted with all that thinking, you're not even listening to the angry boss. And so the boss thinks, oh, maybe you've changed. No, that's not the way it works. You actually do change when you try and flip the script. When people now ask me, how do I apply that to the real world? The real world is inside. The real world is that machine that's forcing your perceptions onto things that don't have the nature you ascribe to them. And I brought up President Trump because the world is so divided about that person. And that's good proof that that person doesn't have the nature you think they have. Yeah, but he's still an asshole, not for everyone. For real, not for everyone. Yeah, but they're wrong. From your world, they're wrong. From their world, you're wrong. You're both wrong. It's coming from you. It ain't coming from the guy. So if you want to perpetuate in the idea of Buddhism, samsara, this continuous cycle of you're wrong, I'm wrong, you're wrong, I'm wrong, I hate you, you hate me. It's called war. We disagree about a thing that is supposed to be disagreed on once you wake up. Of course, there's 1,000 ways you can interpret the orange guy. 1,000 ways. There is as many ways as there are minds. Some people don't even regard him. Some people are impassioned and create some goodness in their life and have some hope in their life because of whatever words they heard from the orange person. Some people are just filled with anger and hatred. They bought into the hook of the illusion, the misunderstanding, that angry boss was the thing that caused my experience. When you unhook yourself from the world forcing itself on you, your behavior necessarily changes. If you are still hooked by the appearance of the world forcing itself on you, then your behavior creates more misunderstanding. The boss yells at me. He's my boss, so I can't yell at him. My mind is reeling from him yelling at me. I've got moment after moment of anger turning into plotting, turning into how am I going to embarrass him in front of the CEO, etc., etc. This is my mind, right? Having experiences because I got yelled at. My mind now is full of venom. At some point, I'm going to act on it. Yeah, I'm going to say a sly comment. Hey, Philip, wasn't he a dick? Like, did you hear him at the conference? Everyone laughed at him. You know, I'll undermine him. I'll do whatever. I'll go find. And Philip, who wants my job, isn't going to agree with me. So then I'm going to go, well, you're just as stupid as him. In my mind, I've just grouped you into them. Forgot your name again? Liar. Liar, on the other hand, agrees with me, thinks. She told me he was bad. So she's now my best friend. All of a sudden, I didn't know it until today, but now we're best friends. She agrees in my worldview. She hooks into my hooked illusion of you. So we're buddies. And so sorry, she's got her eyes on you. So now, I've got a clan of conspirators to help me live the world I think exists, which is you're evil and we're nice. And sorry, Philip, you're suspect, right? But if I can get you over to our side, then we'll win against the evil one. And he might have yelled at me for good reason. And westernizing this, he might have yelled at me because I didn't do something or whatever, but he didn't have to create the anger and the hatred and all the things that it created in me. That's my job. And you got it, it's me. Those that Buddha, those that wake up, won't do the things of those that don't wake up. If we're still under the hypnosis or the illusion that you're the source of my problems and my will to harm you takes action, what really is happening is my mind, my awareness, is recording every moment of hatred and anger and frustration pointed at another person. And where is that being kept? Where is that being recorded? Who's aware of that hatred and anger and emotion? Me. The boss is busy doing his thing. And I'm reeling with hatred, and it's coding my experience. And I keep that. And that grows. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Buddhists, that's karma. Karma is every movement has a consequence. If you get this, every movement has a consequence. As soon as I lash out to those I dislike, I'm creating more beings I dislike. I'm forcing in the projector of my mind. I'm forcing into the substance of my mental movements a whole bunch of instances that associate boss with something to be angry at. What will naturally come up in my mind when I go to the next job and meet my next empty boss? Suspect. He's going to yell at me. I'm going to be weary. I'm going to treat him carefully. And I dig myself into quicksand of an illusion. I've caused my next angry boss by maintaining anger at you. And those that Buddha wake up to that and go, shit, the only way to stop war is peace. Not because he deserves it. He was probably an ass anyway. But because I deserve it. I don't want anger anymore. Anger ain't gonna stop anger. Anger is gonna make more anger. Have you ever planted an anger seed? No, a tomato seed? You get tomatoes. You don't get bananas. What happens to anger seeds? Same thing. What happens to patience seeds? Same thing. What happens to compassion seeds? Same things. What happens to love seeds? Same things. So all Buddhist practice is to undo the misunderstanding, the hooking, that our minds are naturally, we're built biologically to have that bias. And wake-upism, Buddhism, is there to give you the tool to wake you up. No one's coming to save you. Buddha ain't sitting around the corner going, hello, can I help you? They're gone. They left you an instruction manual. No one is coming. Sorry. No one. This is a place of quicksand if left unattended. Yeah, but I've got a Maserati. Good. Congratulations. Do you enjoy it? Does it fill you up? Do you love it? Enjoy it because it's a result of some goodness in you. It's caused. You're forced to project the joy that you experience onto a metal thing with circles underneath it. Someone else sees the Maserati go past and they're like, sorry, any Australians in the room besides one? Wanker. I don't know if you know what that means. And it's every world has its own world. Has anybody heard of this concept called Indra's net? Indra's net. Yeah. It's this infinite net that at the junction of every link there is a diamond perfectly reflecting every other gem on that net. And each one of them represents a consciousness, a mind, that perfectly sees all of the gems in all of existence, all of the minds. Every mind can perceive every other mind, but only from their gem, from their place on the net. And so you are forever able to experience everything, but never not from your own viewpoint. And every viewpoint you see is perfectly reflecting every other viewpoint. It is also in your viewpoint to see the viewpoint of every viewpoint. And in that respect, we are intricately connected as sentient beings, each one having their own little projection of the entire net, and each one looking at everyone's infinite projection of the entire net. And unless you understand that it's coming from you, unless you have either intellectually Buddha'd, meaning, oh, I get it intellectually, but I can't live it yet, or you have truly Buddha'd, meaning, oh, I have that epiphany, I've had the experience of awakening, and then no yelling boss can piss you off. In fact, you won't even hear a yelling boss. You might see someone that is frustrated and you might have compassion and want to help them. And your instant thought would be, oh, how can I help? Sorry. Rather than whatever story your mind created because it was caused. So I wanted to share that my advice today to all these people who ask, how do I take this into the real world? Is a couplefold. Number one, get that key. Understand this thing, karma and emptiness. And you're not going to get it from reading. You're not going to get it from listening to it 10,000 times. You're going to have to get it by trying to get a concept of it as best as you can, trying to apply in your real world, which is the illusion. Yeah? You haven't touched your real world yet until you unhook from the misunderstanding. Your real world is all the things that are currently happening and you experiencing them as bliss or insight or wisdom or compassion. That's the real world. Because every single thing that's happening is empty of a nature. It doesn't have the nature you think it does. What does that mean? That means that the angry boss and your lover, your friend and family member, the stranger and the homeless, the taxi driver and the strangers, are all equally available for your projections to see them as whatever the hell you've planted in you. The implication is, how do you make that come about? And then practices are real practices. Then the next time the yelling boss or the partner or the wife or the husband yells at you or the kids annoy you, instead of being hooked by your first impulse, which is don't be stupid, you rewind that with awareness, with focus. That's why meditation is a thing, to tame your mind from running away with an illusion. Bring it back to its nature, the real nature. Go find the annoying thing in the next comment from your kid or your partner or your lover. When you use analysis, you can't find it. It's just like the boss. And so when you can do that fast, and you won't be able to for the first few years, months, you can do it in months. If you have the karma too. Then you could turn on these practices where you walk out on the street, and instead of feeling, oh, New York and the rats and the subways and the garbage, you could be saying, everything has this potential to be nothing but stunning bliss. And you might fall in love with a stranger, not in romantic love, but just the hope that they find happiness for real, that they can unlock that key inside of them because you tasted it, maybe intellectually at first. Maybe you were the ones that needed to go on retreat and see that work in your imagination, in a meditation. Maybe you forgave someone that you thought hurt you in the past because you could see they could never really have hurt you unless you had the mental movement that hurt you. And when you get those moments of awakening, this very same world that annoys you becomes the real world. You're living in an illusion. I'm living in an illusion. But you can have a tiny moment of awakening. And that's enough in this life to let every other moment be pregnant with opportunity. Like pregnant with opportunity to be bliss. And I can't claim that I've had that a lot. I still get very annoyed. Try and have a boyfriend. He's not here, so I can say. And so this weekend in the meditation teacher training, we said this is all well and good if you're all Buddhisty and Tibetan and weird. But how do you communicate these concepts in neuroscientific terms? Because that's real. And I'm not saying it's not real. Yeah, it's just another lens through which you see all that is. And what I found fascinating, let's see if I remember the numbers. They say there's roughly 100 billion neurons in a human brain. 100 billion. I looked it up. They throw that as an average, something like 87 billion. It's a shit ton, yeah? And each neuron, which is not your mind, by the way, from Buddhist perspective, the movements of consciousness that you have can be creating a physiology in you, and the neuro pathways that are created by obsessive thoughts, from a Buddhist perspective, it's just evidence of what you're constantly thinking about, and then it becomes your biases. You tend to think that bosses annoy you, if that's what you keep putting through your mind. Yeah, something like 100 billion neurons in your brains right now, firing off, where your consciousness can label them experiences. That's how Buddhists would say it. 100 billion. Each neuron, tell me if I'm wrong, connects to 5,000 other neurons on average. Each one of the 100 billion neurons connects to 5,000 other neurons on average. You're making connections every movement of the mind and what follows. 99.9% repeater are subconscious, like, is my heart moving? Is temperature, my eyelids wet? Is there a background? Am I sitting on a chair? Like, you're not even aware of all the things that your brain is doing with your physiology and your thoughts and memories and all that stuff. And a tiny percentage of all those connections are conscious. And you're doing them moment by moment by moment by moment. To give you a comparison, 5 I'm trying to remember the numbers, 5,000 connections of 100 billion neurons is something like 10 to the power of a millionth. Sorry, it's weird numbers. 10 to the power of a millionth, which is not a shit ton anymore, it's a fuck ton. It's like a lot, right? And there are 10 to the power of 86 atoms in the universe. Just compare to the possible realities that your brain can make, 10 to the power of a million, about reality, 10 to the power of 18. Did I say that? 80. Yeah, it had an 8. It's either 18 or 80. Regardless, it's a lot less than a million. Yeah, 10 to the power of 80, let's call it 80, are the number of atoms estimated in the universe. You can Wikipedia or whatever you do to research. That's a lot of atoms of matter in the universe. And your brain has the capacity to make connections 10 to the millionth power. You have more connections, a ton more connections, than there is your real world out there. That's how many worlds you can actually experience, as many as your mind can connect. If I were to connect, now we've got the scientific method about what Buddhists were saying. Buddhists are talking about this 2,500 years ago. They're like, listen, the world isn't what it appears. Sit in a cave, look inside, figure out what is. And you can. That's all you need, and you are worthy of it. And you have the technology for it. You have thought, you have experience, you have reasoning, you have health. You're worthy of understanding what's happening to you. And no one's coming to save. And that's what it means to be a Buddhist, to be a wake-upist. Like, it's on you. If the world's coming from you, it ain't coming from me. You can't. And I wish it could. I wish I could vomit out. No, I don't. No more vomit. I wish I could. I'm using new metaphors. I wish I could just dump in you all the goodnesses and all the bad things all the bad decisions I made with these practices, so you can get a condensed version. And no amount of wishing it is going to dump it on you. You have to create the courses in your mind to be forced to have an experience of awakening. But here's a shortcut. 2 shortcuts. A, find your angry boss, meaning find the thing that triggers you easily, and then observe it through this lens. Practice as if they're not the source of your anger, and go find the anger. And if it's too much to go do it in person, which it often is, meditate on it. Relive that moment just before you get angry and go, oh, okay, let's observe. Where's the anger coming from? His words or my experience of his words? And then sit with that aha moment when you catch that, oh, my mind is creating it. So what should my response be? The opposite of what I don't want. I don't want any more anger. So get as close to kindness as you possibly can towards your boss. And for me, that was the first instruction from my teacher. I came to them with this problem, and he's like, you got to do it yourself. And just resist being angry back at them. Resist yelling back at them. Initially resist. Once you get comfortable resisting, you'll still have the impulse to. Your mental frames will say they are the source. But now you're freer. You've got a little distance between the stimuli and your response. And once you're freer, then watch the energy that arises that makes you tell the story. Watch the story emerge. Control the story. You've controlled your mouth. Now control the story. Keep slowing down the story. And then I'm obsessed with this exercise because I want to get rid of the bastard. You know, I'm like, okay, this is really good. Oh, look at my story. Okay, I'll change that story. And really my teacher was tricking me to just meditate on this. And he said, eventually you'll be able to see that's not the source of anger. You should feel freedom from anger if you stop being angry. Stop being angry, you won't experience anger. How long did it take? It took me 3 months to have that one experience with that one teacher. And that moment where it happened, that you can go check out this TED talk called How to Get Rid of the Angry Boss. It's the peak of my old life. It's the peak of my old life. It's where it's when I was forced to take responsibility for my actions for real, including the actions in my mind that nobody sees. Because there was one day I'd been practicing not yelling at the bastard. The guy was still a bastard. He was still stomping his hand on my desk going, "You're stupid, Hector." He had done it ever since we started working together. We're supposed to be business partners. And he was annoying for real. But here I had this practice. I tried everything else, yelling back, avoiding him. Like, it was still a pain in the ass. And then here's this monk says, "Oh, try this." And I was desperate and I tried it. And after 3 months, I could control my mouth and then I can control the emotion. And all of a sudden, I got really good at this. I'd come in, I knew he was going to yell at me. I just wasn't upset about it anymore. I was watching him yell at me, and he'd come. And this one night, he was particularly annoying. And he came over and like towering over me on the desk. And it was like something snapped. The sounds of New York just dropped. It went like pitch quiet. Things sort of slowed down. And I couldn't see, his name was Gary, I couldn't see Gary anymore. I just saw this mass of moving parts, almost in slow motion going. And I was like very disconnected. I think if I was a psychiatrist, I'd say, this guy's having a breakdown, you know? It felt like very disconnected. And then some part of me began to label the shapes, the circle going big and small, the movement of the thing. And I recognized, not a person, but I recognized the jitteriness, and I felt this thing is hurting. Like that was the first image, the first label that went onto the image, the slowed down image. It went pitch quiet, then there's this thing moving in front of me going, and it took a while, but then the first projection from my mind was, this thing is hurting. I didn't think he's angry. I felt compassion. I'm like, fuck, I wish he wasn't hurting. This thing with the movement, I wish he wasn't hurting. And I got emotional about it. I'm like, I can't help him. He's just hurting. And then he says, "Hector, are you okay?" And he brought me back to the present. And I realized, oh my God, it's him. And I was crying. And he had stopped, I think, not because anything special happened other than he thought he made me cry. So my first stupid thought after this powerful moment that was going on inside as a result of taking care of my mind was my first dumb thought, the one that was this way, was like, keep crying so he shuts up, keep crying. You know, like, which is like not, you know, it's not really the point. I just had this amazing epiphany. You know, it's called dependent origination. You see how your mind projects a reality onto something that doesn't have a nature. I saw it, felt it, it was for real. It took 3 months of desperate work. And then the first thing that arose was compassion for the guy that was an asshole. He became my teacher, like he taught me this thing. And I loved him, but not in the way that you think about it. It's not like, I love the angry boss. The guy's still an asshole. many years later, he's still the same character. I'm not hooked by it. On the contrary, what arises now is this wish that he can find his freedom. For real, I feel that for him. It'd be a really good story for a book if he did. I can't write the book until he gets better. No. So, the real world is in you. It's never not in you. The question's wrong. You can't go and practice Buddhism in the workplace. You're always in the workplace. The work is in here. So that's my first advice. Go and find your angry boss, whether in meditation or whatever in practice. And then just keep at it. Keep at it. No one's coming to save. And that's my 2 cents. I'm probably way over time. Probably not. Thank you for listening. I hope that was useful. Mike, it's so nice to see you. Mikalia. Hi. I don't think I've seen you before. I hope that was helpful. Thanks for coming to my rant. A couple of announcements. Did I do this right, Bobby? Am I doing it right? Let me look at a couple of announcements. I'm supposed to know this off the top of my head. Oh, cool. So 3 Jewels, like I said, it's a non-profit. We're a non-profit. We've been around 25 years, survived the worst things in New York City, and still here and strong. It's a beautiful community of people who are trying to practice these things as they study them together, because it's hard to go and do it with Gary. Yeah. So they come and hang out together and go, how was your Gary? My Gary's fine, thanks very much. This course is still going on, called the one that I talked about on Thursdays, all about emptiness. If you can go in there and see Earl and Sarah talk about emptiness in a really super heady way and just hold on to the railings, even if you don't understand 80% of it, I highly recommend it. You're going to get this sense of the structure and the content, these beautiful translations of books that nobody gets to ever read because they weren't translated anywhere else. You're not going to find these books anywhere. And so if you get a chance to do that, and there's readings, homeworks, whatever, you can come to that. Then that course finishes somewhere in January, and there's a retreat, a meditation retreat that we're doing in Nicaragua. For anyone in 3 Jewels community, there's 13 spots left, and it's February 19th to 26th, a silent meditation retreat, 7 days, is that right? Something like that, 6-7 days in Nicaragua, in the most exquisite place. It's a Pollo Lake, which is an old volcano that got extinct and it got filled with water. It's really full of minerals, so there's no things living in the water. It's just like this mineral thing, and it's just you and the lake and the wind and the things and meditation, silent retreat. That's one thing. Next, November 15th, because we're a non-profit, we're doing fundraising events by donation. People can come, and there's this awesome guy called Daniel Ryan, and he is doing a workshop on past life regression through hypnosis. So he's a hypnotherapist, and he does past life regression. He consults, he teaches at Columbia and all sorts of places. If you want to come and have a cool experience where you get to look at the old frames that you think you label the past me, and you can go back as far as you want. Pretty cool workshop. That's November 15th. And then one more announcement. Next person you look at, whenever you remember, think that their infinite potential exists in them, and whatever you're projecting onto them, if it's not nice, that you can change it. And by changing it, you're creating a much more perfect world for you to step into the moment after that. The power is all yours. You own reality. Reality don't own you. Merry Christmas, everyone. Thanks for joining. Thank you, Rosie. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Chris. It's so nice to see you. Were you around? He's one of the original 3 jewelers. He's been around 700 years. Yeah. If you have questions, you can take the QR code, and I try and answer all these questions that pop up, so feel free to scan it, and it'll take you to a place you can type up your questions, and I'll try and incorporate them in the next class, or the next class, or the next class. Thanks for joining, everyone. Love you. I have a gift for you. Chris, you're heading out? Okay, cool. We'll see you when I step out. Bye, PJ. Bye, Dan. Daniel. See you, Ruslan. Blessings. Yolanda, love you. Bye, Juan. Bye, Mark. Bye, Lauren. Bye, Roy. You're welcome, Mike. You're welcome. Bye-bye. Logging out. Merry Chrysler.